I'm Chris Berman. Let's get straight to the action. In our first game this week, we had the Buccaneers decisively win by 17 points. We had a big injury in this one, and Trey has the lowdown for us. Trey? Daniel Graham stepped it up this week and gave his team some added firepower for the win. Michael Vick airmailed 350-plus yards and helped his Falcons beat the Eagles. Chiefs, Jaguars. Larry Johnson is set to receive the kick, and it's kind of a number. Whoa, almost like a wide receiver makes that catch. Now has to reverse field, but he's got a wall in front of him, picks up a big block at the 40. He's got one man to beat. He could go all the way, 78 yards. What a play. The Chiefs win this one by the final score of 28-24. So as the field narrows to 4, let's hand out a few special playoff-sized game balls to this weekend's primetime players. That'll do it, everyone. I'm Chris Berman. Thanks so much for joining us in the Bristol studios. We'll see you for the conference championships here on ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. I'm Chris Berman. Well, let's get straight to the action. In our first game this week, we had the Buccaneers stroll away with a 14-point win. And in our final game, we had the Chiefs come away victorious. So before we embark on some serious Super Bowl hype, let's look back and dole out a few game balls for our primetime players from today's conference championships. 32 teams kicked things off back in September, each having this game as their ultimate goal. Only 2 teams remain. One team will stand alone as champions of the National Football League. I'm Chris Berman, and that just about wraps it up. Thanks so much for joining us here in the Bristol studios. We'll see you for the Super Bowl here on ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports.
Welcome, everyone, to a special NFL offseason report here on ESPN. Trey Wingo here to get you all squared away with what's been going on since we left you after the Pro Bowl a few months back. Coming up, we'll set you straight on all the offseason player movement and see who went where. Then later, we'll call on ESPN's NFL draft expert Mel Kiper Jr. to get the lowdown on the upcoming NFL Combine and of course to get his opinions on the upcoming draft in April. But before we get to all of that, let's begin by taking a look at the guys that have decided to announce their retirement from the game. Rodney Harrison was a real inspirational leader over his 14 NFL seasons, but he decided last year would be his last, and he stuck to his word as he's officially announced he's leaving the game. Peter Boulware is another guy, as you see there on the screen, that decided his playing days were over, so we certainly wish him luck with future endeavors. Brett Favre decided to call it quits after giving it some thought in the offseason. He was always a fan favorite, but he leaves his playing days behind, perhaps for a broadcasting job. Stay tuned. And when you think of the term grizzled veteran, that probably defined his last few seasons in the NFL. He's been around seemingly forever. It'll be hard to imagine an NFL season without him. Mike Alstott is another name we should mention, as he too decided to hang him up this offseason. So best of luck to him as well with whatever he decides to do. Meanwhile, with NFL free agency becoming more and more competitive by the year, a number of teams had to scramble to find cap room to re-sign their own free agents, as we see here. Ed Reed won't have to change his address as he's re-upped with his existing club. Check the numbers here. 6 years, $44.3 million, plus a $4.4 million signing bonus. So they go ahead and lock him down for the next 6 seasons. And here's a signing that will do nothing but solidify this ball club. Adewale Ogunleye will also be staying at his old address for a while as he's locked up for the next 6 seasons. Julian Peterson stays right where he is, 5 years, $19.7 million. Added on to that, a $3.9 million signing bonus. Tony Parrish agrees to an extension with his old club, as he'll stick around for at least the next 5 years. Take it away, Mel.
Well, Trey, we're going to break down a few players that I think are really going to open some eyes when the Combine kicks off. Leonard is obviously no stranger to most people, as he'll be up there near the top come draft day. 5'11", 218, out of Indiana. And this is a guy that could really address some concerns with a good performance at the Combine. But I really feel he should be in the mix regardless because of his great performance his final year in college. Hicks is also a guy to keep an eye on. His numbers from the Combine will tell a lot, but he looks to be the kind of guy that's going to draw a lot of interest come draft day. And then, after the top picks are gone, people always ask me about the guys I think are the sleepers in the draft. And I really believe that there are going to be some quality prospects out there that, for one reason or another, are going to fall to the later round. Bush should still be there later on in the draft, and I think, bottom line, this kid's a heck of a football player. He might not make an immediate impact, but down the line, he could really pan out. Butler is another guy I look at. Maybe didn't have the greatest senior season ever, but if you're going to roll the dice on a guy, he could turn out to be a good bargain. So there's just a handful of guys that bear watching over the coming weeks. I'll be back with more as draft day approaches. Till then, I'm Mel Kiper Jr.
This is SportsCenter.
Welcome everyone to a special draft preview show here on ESPN. I'm Mel Kiper Jr. With the draft coming up just around the corner, it's time to take a look at some of the guys that are going to be movers and shakers come draft day. The Dolphins are holding on to the #1 overall pick. Obviously, they have a lot of options, but I think the consensus says they're going to go after this guy right here. 5'11", 218, out of Indiana. He's the kind of player that doesn't come around too often, so I think it's likely that he will, in fact, be the first player selected. So then, falling in line right behind him at the top spot, I think you look at a handful of guys that have the potential to be dominant players at the next level and will likely be selected somewhere in the top 10 picks in the draft. Price is someone that's shot up a lot of teams' draft boards. I think he's a guy that has the potential to be a real impact player in the NFL because he has tremendous athletic ability. And then when you look at some guys that are going to be interesting choices for the late first, early second round, I really see some prospects that are going to be significant upgrades for a lot of teams. Webster really moved up since the beginning of his final season of college ball. You have to think he could be a real bargain. I don't know that he's going to make it into the first round, but I think he definitely has first-round talent at the very least. And then this last group, for one reason or another, find themselves as second-day prospects. But there's an old axiom that says you can't make a mistake in the later rounds. That said, I think these are a few guys that could still provide value in the later rounds. George is a guy that could really surprise. 6'1", 320, out of Michigan State. And when you look back on this draft a few years from now, you know they're going to be 4th or 5th rounders that turned into productive players. And I don't see why this young man couldn't be a starter at the next level. So there you have it. As always, this is a fun time of the year, kind of like hot stove football. But things should get even more interesting between now and draft day. Till then, I'm Mel Kiper Jr. We'll see you later. Welcome, everyone, to a special draft wrap-up show here on ESPN. I'm Mel Kiper Jr. With the draft complete, it's time to take a look at all the shoe-ins and the surprises. Let's get it started. Leonard was taken, no surprise, with the first overall selection in the draft. The Dolphins decided early on that this was their man, and they were obviously elated to bring him into the fold. He's going to be a special player, no doubt about it. Pope went with the number 2 pick, and I'll tell you what, this kid takes a lot of talent with him as he heads off to the Cardinals. 5'7", 201, out of Virginia. He had a super season last year that really helped his draft standing, and I think he'll be an impact player at this level. Fletcher snuck into the top 10 as he was nabbed with the number 9 pick overall. Pretty good value here with this pick as he heads off to the Broncos. And I'll tell you what, defending the pass was a definite priority for these guys, so he should be able to step right in and be a contributor from the outset. The 49ers found themselves with a few questions at pick 18, but in the end, I think they got the guy they really wanted all along. Owen is a guy that's got a lot of upside, and I really believe he'll be a fixture with this club for years to come. Keller came off the board with a 25th pick overall, so he'll pack his bags and head off to the Giants. And after some of the top defensive players started coming off the board, I think they wondered if this guy would still be there. So they were probably fortunate to see him still available. So let's do a quick recap as we focus on one team in particular that I thought had an interesting draft weekend. The Giants were really quite poor in stopping the run last season, so they clearly went out and targeted guys that they felt could give them a boost in their front 7, and I think they were able to do that quite nicely. So that'll do it for this year. Another draft is in the books, and now the analyzing and second-guessing will begin in earnest as we get ready for the start of training camp in July. Till then, I'm Mel Kiper Jr. Thanks for joining us.